And I just sat here, my husband walked in the office and he looked at me and I just burst into tears and I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't feel like I'm splitting myself in two, not getting the balance right, either letting work down or letting my son down. And so that was the moment that I just said, I need to get that balance. I need to get the flow where if I want to make his birthday cake, I will be able to do that and it'll be on my terms. It's about being present as a mum, being a great mum, a great wife, great family person, but also doing really quality work that I feel proud of as well.
So, Steph Taylor, welcome to the Disenfranchised. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much. We've just had the Christmas break, so feeling refreshed and ready to get back to work. I think I did probably less work than I wanted to over the Christmas break, actually, so more than refreshed. How about yourself?
Yeah, very similar. Probably should have done more work, but actually I think sometimes you need the break and it means you're back ready to go. So yeah, really looking forward to the year, but Christmas was awesome.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of the perks of owning your own business, isn't it? At the end of the day, you get to make these decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of the benefits. And if you don't get stuff done, it's only you that you've got to blame. And then you can put something right and do something about it.
Excellent. So let's jump straight into kind of your career then. And I'd like to start where I always tend to start, and that's at the beginning. So I'd love to find out what your first job was.
Okay, so I had a Sunday paper round, but I'm guessing we're not going to count that one as a first proper job. So my first employed job with a contract and everything else was actually a checkout girl at Sainsbury's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So was it something that you kind of dreamt of doing and always wanted to be part of the Sainsbury's family, or?
It was one of those, turned 16, was coming up for the summer holidays, wanted a bit of money, and just looked around. And I think it was my mum picked me up an application form while she was up shopping, because obviously back then you filled in a paper form. Filled it in, and that was it really. Got myself a sort of evening and Saturday job. We used to get called the milk and cookies because we could only do so many hours. But yeah, that was where it all started.
The milk and cookies. I've never heard of that before.
Milk and Cookies Crew, yeah, it was to do with, well, I'm sure you couldn't use that phrase now, but it was because you could only do so much and you were the sort of the kids that worked there.
I see. So like that relating to like primary school or something like that, when it's all milk and cookies
Yeah.
get you. It's funny what you are and aren't allowed to say nowadays, isn't it? That back then kind of just seemed innocent, I guess, didn't it? But you can see how it would upset people. So where did that kind of take you then? So did you do like a lot of other people, kind of leave that after a few months or half a year and move on, or did you carry on with Sainsbury's?
So I was only ever going to work at Sainsbury's while I was studying. I think a lot of people say that, but I ended up working for Sainsbury's for 21 years. And it was kind of a progression. So it started off as I didn't really just like sitting on the checkout, so I got bored. So I'd ask to do extra jobs. I'd empty the bins. I'd do the newspapers. I'd do put all the left behinds back, whatever I was asked to do. Stayed there when I was studying. Went to university. And then graduated and had a real passion for wanting to work with people, wanting to use my degree in kind of a people area, wanted to go into personnel or HR as it's kind of coming at the time. But it was 2008, and obviously that wasn't the best time to finish university. But an opportunity came up within Sainsbury's to do exactly what I wanted, which was to go into HR. It was a temporary position, but grabbed it with both hands and stayed for forever.
Forever. No, that's cool. I mean, I think I remember when I was younger and I was looking at. So I worked within putting up marquees basically. So as an unskilled labourer. And I had this epiphany moment where I thought I need to get out of here and do something and set my sights on, having an actual career. And I looked at things like, a McDonald's or Sainsbury's or Tesco's or whoever the big brands are, and looked at those jobs and thought, That's not really a career, but the more I've spoken to people over the years, and doing this podcast, actually, I've realised there's massive potential within these organisations if you work hard and just take the training and like you did, go out there and just sort of ask, what else can I do? How can I move into the next step within the organisation? And I'm assuming that the training there for you, based on what you wanted to do, was pretty good as well, even during sort of temporary employment.
Yeah, absolutely. So initially, when I became an HR manager, as an HR manager in training, and it was a year program partnered with a really experienced HR manager. He taught me everything he knew, really structured training, and it does always surprise people that actually, like you say, it's a massive organisation and there's so many opportunities. You've just got to figure out what you want to do and grab the opportunity. So we went in and did a talk to a local school about career opportunities in retail in supermarkets. And when you're talking to a 16-year-old about a work experience, they think, oh, I'm going to come to a supermarket and you're going to make me, whack out on shelves. But actually, when you start talking to them about a store manager's salary or a store manager's benefits, suddenly their eyes light up and they think, oh, actually, there is a whole world of opportunity there, and there's head offices, there's all sorts of things that people just don't think about.
Yeah, definitely. So what attracted you to the role of HR manager?
So my study was psychology and computing, but I'm not so much that side of things, more kind of human computer interaction. But my study was psychology, and I've always just been really interested in how to get the best out of people, how people interact with each other, how people interact with organizations. So HR just seemed like the obvious choice to me. And while I was at uni, within Sainsbury's, I progressed into personnel as it was at the time as a personnel assistant, a payroll
Okay.
clerk. So I was inspired by the people I was working with as well, to say, do you know what, I want to do what they do. It looks brilliant. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's really cool and really nice that opportunity's there. Did you ever look at companies outside of Sainsbury?
I technically I yes, I applied elsewhere. Technically I left for a few days. I went and started a job with another company, but very quickly realized during my induction that what they told me in the induction wasn't sorry, in the interview wasn't what the role was going to be. So quickly went back to Sainsbury's, sort of cap in hand, and was like, can I come back please? And they were lovely. They were really happy to have me back.
That's cool, and it's actually a common theme actually. So I worked in recruitment for a good number of years, and a lot of people have that. The interview, the interviewer is on their best form, and really trying to sell the opportunity when they can see a good person in their sights. But the reality is, you sort of dive in and they've got good intentions. They're not trying to mislead a lot of the time, but there's always a load of other stuff that needs to get done before the exciting stuff happens. And
Yeah.
it,
And
yeah,
I think it's a really good lesson as well for that interviewee to say it is a two-way process, and actually you need to ask the difficult questions as well. So
100%.
as much as I'd asked about progression and what it really looked like, as soon as I met the team and they said to me, "Oh no, Steph, that doesn't happen here," um, yeah, it was kind of a done deal for me.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Well, it's good that Sainsbury's took you back. So you were
Absolutely.
with them for 21 years in the end, was that right?
Yeah, 21 years. Started when I was 12. Didn't.
Wow.
I didn't. I just don't like to accept that it means that
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
the age I am.
That's fair enough. But yeah, so I mean that's a long time at one company. So why move on from there? What was the kind of next step, and why did you move on?
So, like a lot of people that have done that long in one company, it was a redundancy situation. So I think it was the um, fifth restructure that I'd been through in about 7 or 8 years. At this particular one, there were opportunities to apply for other roles, and I hadn't been successful in securing my original role. Um, And there was a bit of an epiphany moment for me where you when you've been at a company that long, you really have to want to leave. And I had applied for some of the other roles, and I just had this moment of real clarity that said, do you know what, this isn't working for me anymore. Maybe now is the time to go and get the balance and the life that I want, in a different way. So I withdrew from the vacancies I'd applied for and kind of said, yeah, do you know what, I just need to do something different. And yeah, the feeling when I made that decision was terrifying, but actually liberating. It was, yeah.
So you say that the life and the balance that you wanted. What does that actually look like? Is that just
Okay.
working, 9 till 10 and chilling out for the rest of the
Yeah.
week?
Um, so I guess I should contextualize it. So the thing that, excuse me, the thing that kind of made me make that decision is the interview for the particular role that I'd applied for was the date that was given to me was the 16th of April. The interview's on the
Okay.
16th of April. And I said, I'm on holiday that week. And actually, that particular day is my son's fourth birthday, it would have been. They said, well, that's the date for the interview. So I thought, okay, well, it's an hour. I can make this work, no problem. Then you've got to do a presentation and prepare it, but you only get 48 hours notice or 24 hours notice. So I got sent that, and it was the day before his birthday. And I was sat in this office, like in this chair, and I had set the day aside to make his birthday cake.
Yep.
And that was really important to me. That's what my mum did for me. I wanted to make his birthday cake. And I'd set that day aside and thought, that's what I'm going to do. And so I was then sat at this chair, starting this presentation in the back of my mind, thinking, I want to be in the kitchen making this birthday cake. It's going to take me all day because I'm not a cake maker. And I just sat here. My husband walked in the office and he looked at me and I just burst into tears. And I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't feel like I'm splitting myself in two, not getting the balance right, either letting work down or letting my son down in my eyes. He clearly won't remember this in
Yeah.
years to come. And so that was the moment that I just said, I need to get that balance. I need to get the flow where if I want to make his birthday cake, I will be able to do that and it'll be on my terms and I won't have to bend and flex as much. So it's about being present as a mum, a great wife, great family person, but also doing really quality work that I feel proud of as well.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. So what were the options on the table to you at that point as far as you were concerned?
So in that moment, it was take redundancy, figure out the rest of it later.
Oh,
um,
wow.
yeah, and if I'm honest, franchising hadn't at that point. It wasn't really on my radar. In any redundancy situation, you kind of start to look around, see what's out there. So I'd looked at employed roles, but I was very set on I didn't want to work full time. So there didn't feel like there was a lot out there. I talked about, okay, maybe it's time to take a step back and do something completely different. I could do sort of a clerical role somewhere instead. Um, there was the option of just, trying to work it out. Do I need to work? How can we make the family life work if we're not paying childcare, but I'm around? Um, yeah. But the one thing I did say as soon as I made that decision was, do you know what? I'm going to take some time. My redundancy was reasonable and I'm going to have a little bit of time to think about what I really want to do.
Yeah, I guess you were there for quite some time, weren't you? So it helps to. Sorry, I'm not trying to drive home the age
Hello.
thing, like. But I guess it. Redundancies are calculated on length of service, aren't they? A lot of them. So
Yeah.
yeah, I can imagine it. It gives you a little bit of leeway, which is really good. But still, I think it's pretty brave to do that because for a lot of people, they'll be thinking, I need to get a job as soon as possible. What if it takes 6 months and I use up all that redundancy money? So
I was very fortunate. The timing was perfect in that my son started school in September and I finished working, I think it was the end of April. So I then made the decision, but I had gardening leave until the end of July, so I was getting paid till the end of July.
oh,
So
okay.
I made the decision. Actually, do you know what? I'm not going to start doing anything until he starts school. Um, so yeah, but the timing was. They say things happen for a reason, and I guess in this case they did.
Excellent. So that's good though. You got some, I'd imagine, some good quality time with your son then before school, and then everything all changes anyway, doesn't it?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
a lot more sitting in traffic jams and running around after the kids for clubs and
yes.
stuff like that, doesn't it? At that
Oh
time,
yes.
so I guess that makes it even more important for you at this point then to have that flexible kind of work-life balance that's going to allow you to do all those things rather than relying on childcare or family members, I guess, which
Absolutely.
a lot of us do at the end of the day. It's a shame, you know. But so obviously you're now with the Passionate PA.
Yeah.
Or you have your business under the Passionate PA brand. So how did you discover the business, and what kind of made you want to have a look at that as an opportunity? Because I guess it's a bit different to what you were doing in the HR role, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously there's a lot of transferable skills, but it is very different. For me, it was really an exploration of, okay, what is the art of the possible? What is out there? So a bit of a Google, a bit of a look around. I think it was actually LinkedIn, and Kate will love me for saying that because clearly an advocate of LinkedIn. But I think it was actually LinkedIn. I'd become aware of other passionate PAs in the area through contacts or people liking posts, and it was just in the back of my mind. So yeah, had a more detailed look, and as soon as I saw the model, saw the brand, saw the people involved, I was like, yeah, do you know what? That's what I want to do. It was, to me, it was, yeah, that's it. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Just really, yeah, really, really done
So
deal.
I perhaps was a little bit naive as to what a VA or a PA actually does. So I actually used to recruit for PAs, but you can read a job description and kind of go, yeah, that's fine, that matches up to the CV. But and now I've got to know the brand a little bit more. I've done an interview with Kate. I realised that you guys actually do way more than kind of just arranging diaries, right? Which is on
Yeah.
the face of it what a lot of people think a PA is. So did you know kind of exactly what that role was before speaking with Kate, or was that something you discovered as you kind of went through?
I think that's one of the, for me, that was one of the real attractions of the Passionate PA. Actually, yes, we are called the Passionate PA, but it's all about that freelance business support. It's all about that commercial acumen, that background in an industry, and potentially a bit of a specialism. Um, and and that's what made the Passionate PA different to me. That's what made it kind of like, actually, all those skills you've got, I never wanted to be an HR consultant. That's not me. That's not my bag. But actually, I have so many skills from all those years,
Yeah.
project management, yeah, diary management, all the things you'd expect. But on top of that, that bit that says, okay, how can we think about this differently? And with Kate and the Passionate PA, I can use that and I can mold that rather than saying, oh, now, yes, I am just going to, put a event in your diary, or whatever that
Yeah.
looks like.
I, I, I don't mean to kind of
No, not at all. No, no, no,
speak
not at
down of
all.
that at all. But I guess where I'm coming from is you've got large corporate experience, right? So working within Sainsbury's, that is experience that smaller businesses or solopreneurs or however you want to call them, people starting out their businesses, they don't have those structures in place. They don't necessarily have that knowledge that you will be able to bring to the table. And I guess that was the difference for me, realizing that actually these people that are working or have their businesses within this brand, they do a lot more than kind of what I thought in the first instance, which is really cool. And you can go into a business now and help them out with HR issues, or at least give them some idea as to the direction they should be heading in, rather than kind of making mistakes early on. So that's pretty cool. So it's a franchise model. That means you're going to have invested some fee up front, right?
Yeah.
Now, you said you had a redundancy payout, so I'm guessing a good chunk of that's gone towards paying that fee. But what was it like in terms of the feeling for you handing over that money without a guarantee of, you are definitely going to earn X amount of money, by this point next year? I think a lot of people that are looking at investing in franchises, they do see that fee as a big
Yeah.
hurdle to overcome. And it's not like getting a job where, okay, if it doesn't work out, you can go back to an employee, go back and not worry. You're making a big commitment. So what does that feel like to you?
I think it's that piece about doing your research. Kate's fantastic in that when it came to the contract, she was actually quite clear with me. Go and get this looked at by a solicitor. Don't just sign it, because I know some people, especially people that can be quite trusting, would just be like, "Oh, I'm sure it's all fine, sign it." It's like, no, no, no. Make sure you're clear on this. Ask the
Yeah.
questions you want to ask. But also, it was the research piece. So I spoke to a number of different passionate PAs who had different, I was going to say length of service. That's very HRy, but different. They'd been there for a different amount of time, and actually, even so, I spoke to some of the newer passionate PAs who were really clear in that, yeah, okay, there's no guarantee of the income, but actually the model allows you to get that income, to develop your client set very quickly. None of them felt concerned in that way. And yeah, it's a huge risk, but it's doing your planning. Okay, what's realistic? What can I work? How will I get my clients? Where will I get my clients? And the business model, okay, this is what we do, this is how we do it, this is our minimum marketing requirements. It all makes sense. And I guess there is a leap of faith, but if you don't do it, you'll never know.
Yeah. At any point, did you sort of, during that research, did you think, I could do this myself? Why do I need to
No,
invest?
absolutely not. Um, because I think for me it was, I'd been in corporate for so long as well. You have this wonderful safety net around you where, like, if anything goes wrong, there's like a massive legal team, or there's this person or that person. And with a passionate PA, okay, I haven't got that, but what I have got is I've got a team of incredibly skilled people around me, incredibly warm people, but also a business model where, as someone starting out business, you don't know what you don't know. So little things that I maybe wouldn't have done or might have discovered 2, 3 years down the line, they're already set up, they're already done, they're already dealt with. And I just wouldn't have known those things. So yeah, and the mentoring as well. You don't get that anywhere else unless you
Yeah.
want to pay for it.
I was actually going to ask you that question, basically. What if you had done this on your own, what do you think you would have missed?
Oh, like, I don't think I would have really understood the value of things like LinkedIn, your marketing, your networking. I think I probably would have avoided it because it's not something that's necessarily always natural to me. So it would have been like that would be nice to do later. Therefore, my business wouldn't have grown
Yeah.
halfway new, as quickly as it has. Really small things like registering with the ICO. It, it is a small thing, but actually it's an important thing. Um, yeah, so many things. Setting up your accounting and your time tracking and how, ways of working and best practice. They're things that I probably would have got to, but 2, 3, 4 years down the line. So I am potentially 2 years ahead of where I could have been if I'd done it on my own, because I just wouldn't have known. Setting up a website, where do you start? Copywriting for your website, it's a minefield.
Yeah, yeah, and it's really resonating with me. I'm 9 months into my business, I think, and actually, Kate recommended to me to get registered with the ICO as well. So she's helped me as well outside of that. But yeah, there is way more stuff than you think. Like, it's nice having your concept and your idea of, okay, I just set this up and run it, but doing it efficiently, getting to that first income quickly is really tough. And yeah, I think I'd already worked out that LinkedIn was a good source for me to generate leads, so I was ahead a little bit there. But if I'd have followed what I was taught in recruitment, to be fair, I would probably be nowhere near where I am now, and that's surviving, right? That's not like I'm flying. It's surviving, and I think yeah, these things, like you say, you don't know until you know them, and having that advice there from someone else, like I see it as a massive benefit, and I'm glad to hear you say the
Yes.
same thing as well. So so in terms of the support then, okay, you've got the structure and the processes, and you said the mentorship there, but I guess one of the biggest fears for many people is getting those first clients on board. So what kind of, how has that kind of materialized for you underneath this franchise brand?
Yeah. So if you've got a strong brand, people know about you, so people come to you. So all of my initial clients were head office leads, and
Wow.
Kate is really and Kate is really good at understanding that client, understanding their needs, and then finding the right passionate PA with capacity who can work with them. So my first client was 15 hours a week initially. It was a short-term project. No one else had 15 hours capacity, but also it was kind of like very EA kind of diary management kind of work. So that was my first client. So straight away, for the first, it was supposed to be 4 weeks. It turned into 3 months, but for the first 3 months, for me, because I wanted to work part time, I was nearly at capacity for that time. So it was
Yeah, wow.
brilliant. Um, and then my next couple of clients did come through head office, and it was a big thing for me actually. I want to I want to win my next client. I used to say to Kate, I'll be fully fledged then. I'll be proper once I've got my own client. But there is massive support. And if the client inquiries are coming in, then obviously we do get the work, but there is no promise of that. So we do go out and get those clients. So a bit of networking. I found online networking really, really good for finding my sort of clients. Yeah.
So, so are you restricted by a physical territory, or can you work with clients up in Scotland and wherever you can find them?
Yeah, so when I came on board was kind of when the model changed where it was no longer territory based. So yeah, obviously there's a bit that says if there was a client that lived right next door to another passionate PA, we might say to each other, "Oh, do you think they'd be a great fit for you?" But no, not at all. None of my clients are that local to me. Well, that's not true. I've got one new client just before Christmas who is in the area I've met in person. But my other clients, a lot of them are based in Chichester, which is kind of up the road, but quite a long road.
Yeah.
I've had clients in Preston, so yeah, all over the place. As long as they're happy to work virtually, it works.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense, especially it sounds like, you know, when Kate's getting those head office leads, they are matched with the right PA, right? With the right skill sets that are going to kind of tie into the requirements of the business. I guess, yeah, each individual PA is going to have their strengths. Like you said, they bring their own expertise to the table. So, yeah, it makes total sense that rather than, let's say, you trying to learn a specific area of business, I'm trying to think of something. I was going to say greengrocers, but like that's probably your core area. Yeah, that's probably your core area. Okay, maybe an
So for example,
accountant.
if someone had a business, they were preparing for sale and they wanted support with that, then it would be very much okay. That goes to like that's yours. So it's
Because
that
she's
sort of
got that
thing.
background. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
Makes sense. Makes total sense. Cool. So you mentioned there that you kind of work in conjunction with the other PAs, you know, in sharing clients and speaking with them. Do you ever work with one client at the same time? So both of you bring two sets of skills, you know, to one client?
Yeah, so I have done that recently with one of the other passionate PAs. So Laurie was doing some copywriting for a client, and I was doing sort of her more day-to-day business support, so managing invoices or posting blogs for her, that sort of thing as well.
Wow, that's really cool. So it's kind of like being part of a team then, isn't it? So perhaps then that brings another question. Do you ever feel like it's not your own business?
No, absolutely not. So, yeah, there's a framework. So we used to talk a lot when I worked in corporate about having freedom within a framework. Um, But now I actually have a freedom within a framework. There is a framework. There's clearly a business model. There's ways that we do things, but ultimately it's my business. I make the decisions. I choose who I work with. If Kate came to me with a client and said, "Steph, this person's brilliant. You have to work with them," actually, I don't have to, and she would respect that. Um, it is very much about getting that balance and what's right for the individual passionate PA. Like it couldn't be clearer. The conversations I've had with Kate about, oh, I'm not doing as much as this person, or oh, I do things differently, and it's like, yes, because it's your business, so you do things differently, and so you should.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. So, in terms of the kind of revenue side of things, now I don't want you to necessarily give us numbers here, but kind of how long does it roughly take you to kind of get your money back that you invested at the front end, and yeah, how many clients has it taken you to kind of build this business to the point where you're kind of happy with the income? So
So
that's
in
two
terms of,
questions there.
well, two questions. I'll try and remember them. So in terms of getting the investment back, I think it was probably 3 to 4 months, and
Oh wow.
remembering that I do part-time hours. So I think if someone was full-time and really threw themselves into it, you could do it, yeah, definitely within 3 to 4 months. I was very fortunate that we had that chunky client very early on. No, I forgot what's the second part of the question.
So how many clients?
Okay.
So actually, there's probably an additional part to that. So
Okay.
in terms of your working hours now, are you still part time?
Yeah.
You are cool. Okay, so how many clients does it take for you to be at capacity? And then
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, it's a difficult one in terms. So at the moment, I have um, 4 regular clients, and then I have some ad hoc work from another couple of clients. But I mean, it depends because one of my clients is 10 hours a week. So that is, for part-time, that's a massive chunk of my week. But I love them and they're brilliant. And if I could make an extra day, I'd do an extra day a week for them if they wanted me to. But yeah, probably 4 to 5 clients for me is a really happy place, depending on how many hours that is a week.
yeah, that seems pretty manageable. I thought it was going to be loads of 1 hour a week sort of clients, but yeah, you've got
It's
yeah,
I think with the support that we offer, it's got to be meaningful. So I have got one client that's 1 hour a week, but his is about diary management, but also accountability. So it's more of it's almost a bit of mentoring and a check in that way. But some of my clients, yeah, they're 2 hours a week, but it's 2 hours of really meaningful, driven work that is okay. We're working on this, that will be done. I think if it was like the odd hour here and there, you probably wouldn't feel as much value.
yeah, yeah. No, that's fair enough. But yeah, that's cool. So and that's bringing you a revenue that you're quite happy with. That's probably on par with what you would earn within an employed position on part time. Do you feel?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a bit where I'm not quite earning what I was previously, but that is a conscious decision to say I want to get that balance better if I was
Yeah.
doing exactly what I was. But also, I was contracted for 26 hours a week when I was employed. I never did 26 hours a week. Like, so actually, it's very difficult to do that comparison because there are the considerations like pension and benefits, and oh my word, my food shopping has gone up 10% every single week on before you add on inflation. But I'm in control. I can choose how much I earn, and if there's a month where I'm like, oh, do you know what, school holidays are coming up, I could really do with doing some more. I can go out and get that project work, or I can choose, and I can also therefore choose in the summer to say I'm not taking on any project work because as a parent, that juggle is
Yeah.
real. So yeah, I am really happy, really comfortable with what I am earning. Absolutely.
Awesome. And I guess at some point, if you want to scale up, like you say, it's feasible. You can do that, right?
Yeah, and other passionate PAs do. Other passionate PAs work full time, and therefore their revenue will be quite different. I've done the maths kind of as a piece of work. So okay, as my son gets older and needs me less, if I wanted to work a bit extra or do that extra day because I don't do Fridays. What does that look like? And actually, I would definitely be earning. My earning potential is far better than it was when I was employed, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Some may
cool.
argue.
That's great. But I'm curious why you got rid of Fridays instead of Mondays. Everyone hates Mondays, right? Why not cut out the
Yeah.
Mondays?
Well, it was kind of organic. And it kind of happened through my work with one client where it's like, okay, I'm going to do 4 days a week. Okay, let's not do Fridays. But the other reason is one of my biggest drivers for my business is about having that balance, that flow. And there's a big bit that said when I was working or splitting my hours across the week, you then get to Friday, be really tired. And then I adore spending time with my family. My husband does shift work, so a lot of the time at the weekend it is me and my son. But I'd be going to the weekend like, oh God, I'm so tired. And naturally, you're more irritable or things frustrate you more quickly. Whereas now, take a Friday off, do some things for me, get some of those jobs done that if you've got the kids on a Saturday and you're trying to get them done, they're really stressful. Get that stuff done on a Friday, have a bit of a recover, relax, or if my husband's off, have a day together so that when you go into the weekend, I am present, I am there. That's what I want to achieve, and that's what this business allows me to do.
Yeah, you're making a lot of sense. Yeah, I think when you sort of balancing in clubs and stuff where we take our kids to, and then you're like, right, now we've got to do all the other jobs that are chucked in. You get like an hour at the end of the day to try and cram in all your kind of activities you want to do as a family, and it's just, it's not enough. So,
and don't get me wrong, it's not perfect. I still don't have enough time to do all those things, but there's more time.
No, you've sold me. So one day when I go down to 4 days, that's it. I'm cutting out Fridays. Awesome. So one final question before we go into kind of my standard questions that I kind of tend to ask everybody. I'm just kind of wondering, for you, what's been the biggest challenge in building this business?
Me, if I'm honest, it's that, and a lot of people, I think the more you speak to people, the more they will open up and say it, but it's not something people necessarily offer straight away. I'm quite an open book, and actually my biggest blocker is me thinking I'm not good enough, or a bit of imposter syndrome, or oh God, I don't know what I'm doing. But what I'm learning is you don't know until you try it. You have to do it, and it is all about being in that kind of growth zone of, oh God, this does feel really icky, but once you get to the other side and look back, it's okay. So yeah, the biggest blocker is very much me, and probably always will be, but at least I know it and I can manage it.
Excellent. I think for a lot of people that go self-employed or start their own job, they worry about why is a client going to pay me money? And I think you've got to compare that to why is someone going to give me a job, because you feel a lot more comfortable going into job interviews, right? You go in there knowing I can do this job and I'm expecting a guaranteed, salary for it. So it shouldn't really be any different in business, but I'm guilty of it myself, sit here and go, oh yeah, I'm charging too much here.
And I think one of the things is and that's a real one to get over is, oh, like like if I was employed, what would my rate per hour be? Okay, I'm charging more, but yeah, of course you're charging more because you don't have a pension, you don't have your employee benefits. The person contracting you doesn't have all the associated employee costs, which are immense, but people just see that rate per hour, and that's not all it is. So that's definitely one to kind of reconcile really quickly. Otherwise, you will end up charging £10 less an hour than you should be, than your value, and that could be just as detrimental because people think, why are you so cheap? Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, that's the thing. Business owners know already, don't they? What the value is that you're probably going to bring to them, and the cost of that. And yeah,
And if they
make
don't know, it's our job to educate them and say, well, actually, in a very um, kind way, but kind of say, well, have you considered how much it would cost you to recruit? Or actually, who else can you get for this rate that will deliver this work for you? Or just demonstrating this is what I can do, this is how much I can achieve in an hour.
yeah, no, good stuff. I love it. Really good. So 3 questions. The first one, I like to find out from people, what's been the funniest, strangest, or weirdest moment in your career?
Okay. So probably dressing up as a dinosaur, and it gets more strange, and riding around on traveling around the south coast of England in a flatbed lorry with a massive dinosaur from can you remember BBC's Walking with Dinosaurs?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We had a massive T-Rex on the back of a lorry with a red nose on and travelled round raising money for Comic Relief. And probably the weirdest moment, even within that, was being on a ferry on a day where it snowed, going to the Isle of Wight with this dinosaur in the car ferry, and just all the cars around us like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's good when you're sort of driving along doing the waving and stuff like that. But yeah, sat in a ferry must be a bit odd.
It was strange, but it was, yeah, I was on BBC Weather, like, and at this point in my career, I was an HR manager. I wasn't, not like working in the store. I was a proper professional. Not for those 2 weeks, I wasn't.
Fantastic, I love that. It's a good story though for you, isn't it? At least you got something out of it like that. But
I loved
yeah,
it.
weird
It was the best.
situation. Cool. So next question then, and that's what's been the proudest or most inspiring moment from your career?
Um, I guess if we talk about since I've been a franchisee, it is definitely, in terms of inspiring for me, was the moment that I was having a conversation with Kate and said out loud, do you know what? For the first time in a really long time, I feel like I can bring my whole self to work, and I don't have to try and be someone that I'm not. And if people like me and want to work with me, that's brilliant. And if they don't like me, then I probably don't want to work with them anyway. And it was just that moment of realization, and it felt liberating. Like,
Mm.
it was, yeah, insane.
Yeah.
But in terms of previously employed, so many proud moments, but more proud of the people I worked with and what they achieved. Like seeing someone that I employed as a 16-year-old coming through college, didn't really know what they wanted to do, and then seeing them progress to become a department manager or a deputy manager or store manager or whatever that looked like. It wasn't necessarily anything I'd done, but just seeing it always made me really proud, and just, yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think I think your first point there about that kind of liberation, being yourself. I wish I'd done it years ago, like in employment, because if you do it in employment, that's you get a lot of respect from people, but you always feel like you have to be on best behaviour or do things in a certain way. I think I remember someone saying to me, why are you wearing shirts all the time? If you're sitting at home, especially during lockdown, wearing a hoodie, just be like that when you go into online meetings. I was like, okay, yeah. And as soon as I did, no one really cared,
Okay.
and I just
I
kind of,
think I think the problem is in the employed world is you're always worried about the expectation. You're always worried about your next performance review. In my case, working in HR in retail, which is really tough at the moment. Like, food retail has been tough
yeah,
for years. But it's really tough. So there were a lot of restructures for the right reasons, and it was always done in the right way. But it's always in the back of your mind. But actually, if you've got someone that is this full package, shiny, says the right things, does the right things, you're going to keep them. And if someone kind of speaks out a bit or says that's not right or doesn't quite look the part, as much as everyone talks the talk and we talk about inclusivity, when you're faced with that decision,
mm,
what are you going to do? So I think you're right. I think in employment you need to bring your whole self, but I also completely understand why there's those niggles in the back of people's minds.
Yeah, I understand yeah, why they're there, but
Hmm.
I feel if I was more myself when I was in employment, I
Yeah,
would have found my home within employment quicker rather
yeah.
than being at places where I remember bit fist banging on a table from a manager saying, just make more calls and look smarter, wear a tie. And I was like, I don't agree with any of this, but I did it
Hmm.
because that's what they wanted.
Yeah.
Whereas now I'm more myself and approach things in the way that I want to. Yeah, it feels better, and
I
I feel
think
more
it's,
at home, more
yeah,
comfortable.
and I think it's that bit, isn't it? It's like being brave because actually, if you stood up and did those things, or if I maybe said some of the things that I thought, I maybe would have found a different role within that organisation, or what I might have found is, do you know what, this isn't the right place for me, and that's okay.
Yeah,
Well, it is okay to make that change, but it's a scary world, isn't it, in employment?
yeah.
Because yeah,
There are people out there who are like that in employment, and I totally respect them. And they'll be there for 6 months to a year and go, "Yep, my job's here, done here. I'm comfortable with moving on, and that's it." Whereas I was at places for 8 years because I was like, "What if the next one's awful?"
yeah. But I
But
did
there you go.
21 years, so what can I say? What can I say? But I loved it. I have to say, like, I loved, like, I'd say 95% of my time, I loved it. But there just came a point where it was, I'm not getting this right, or this job it isn't working for me. But generally, yeah, you don't stay somewhere for 21 years if you don't like it.
Yeah, no, that's it. But circumstances change and things happen for a reason, like you say, I guess. So
Yes.
excellent. Well, look, Steph, I'm going to wrap up with this final question because I'd love to get your thoughts on what somebody who's thinking about maybe investing in franchise, whether it's the Passionate PA or any others, what if you could only give them one piece of advice, what would that one piece of advice be?
Okay. It would be it would be all around clarity. So know what you want. So not what you think you want, or not what you think other people think that you should do, but know what you want. So spend some real quality time thinking about what your vision is, what your goals are, and not all the rubbish that you write in a performance review, like the stuff that you actually really care about, what are your values. So I guess it comes down to the age old question of what's your why? Know your why. Because if you know that, you'll know what will suit what you want to do and you'll know what you're working towards. And then if a franchise is the right way for you, you will also be able to keep that in mind when you're driving through building a business, building what looks good for you. Because everyone's why is different, and which means that everyone's right is different as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think there might be a business out there that eh, is more proven to be successful. I don't know, is that a thing? But maybe it might look like it's better, more shiny. There's higher revenue turnover. Let's say like a just McDonald's because it's big and we know the
Yeah.
turnovers are huge. You might look at that and go, "That's great," but that doesn't mean that's going to fit for you because you, in particular, your core values are, be around for my child more.
Uh-huh.
McDonald's is not going to fit that at all, is it? I know that's a
Yeah.
really obvious thing to say, but when you start to break it down with other brands that you're looking at,
Uh-huh.
they've got to fit those values, and I think that's so important to do that. You're right.
And I think when you speak to people about, oh, if you left your business, what would you do? And a lot of people, and maybe this is just where I came from, but a lot of people say, oh, I'd love to set up my own little shop. I'd like to have like a bookshop or a gift shop. And like you say, yeah, that's great, and the dream is beautiful. But actually, let's start thinking about this. Well, retail is
What's the
6 or 7
realities?
days a week. So are you going to employ? So do you want to employ? Because then you get people saying, oh, I don't like employing people's hard work. Yeah, it is. So actually, if that's not within your value set, if that's not within your why or your vision, then actually you can't have a bookshop. Maybe you could have a market stall that sells books, or maybe you could have a concession within something else. But a bookshop isn't right. So by knowing that why and your values and what drives you, you might still have a similar concept, but within a slightly
Yeah.
different area. And the same for franchise. So there are other VA, PA franchises out there, but to know what's right, you need to understand what is going to drive you and what you want to achieve.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. And actually, it reminds me of a thought I had years ago. I thought, wouldn't it be lovely to have a bar in Spain and, get to spend your days in the sunshine near the beach and all that. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, hang on. If I'm the bar,
Yeah.
I'm running
You're
the
not in the
bar.
sun.
I'm not out there in the sun. I am running the bar and dealing with all the stresses. And yeah, that'd be horrible. I want to be out there enjoying the bar, not having to make it run efficiently, worrying about whether this season the clients are going to be there or not. So yeah, I
Not going
really
to
love.
Spain anytime soon.
I'll go, but I'm not going to start a business there. Yeah, it just the bits about going to Spain is enjoying the freedom and being stress free. So why turn that into a stress by adding in a business over there? That just, doesn't make sense to me right now. But there we go. No, yeah, exactly. You never know. I might do this from Spain one day. That'd be fine. I don't mind that. But we'll see where this all takes us both. But Steph, it's been a real pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for your time today and for sharing your story and for being so open with us. Really appreciate it. And have a good rest of your day.
And you, thank you.
Cheers. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.